Hi, and welcome to another video today that we've put together. This one's very much for sports training, and in particular, what type of training you should do during your season. There's a lot of stuff that's very confusing with sports, and most people think of conditioning, it's straight away strength exercises. However, strength exercises, while they may be good, they can create like sore muscles, DOMS, which is muscle soreness after the training, that may inhibit your training performance and your game day. So how do you then do exercises that still give you the gains that you're looking for and prevent any muscle loss, but without creating the muscle soreness that inhibits your training? So what I'm going to do is go through a few things here that breaks up what you really need to focus on during the season. In the off season, you can definitely go at full speed with all the strength stuff. So let's have a quick look. When you're designing a sports program, it's very much like a bit like a cube. There's so many pieces of the puzzles, so there's so many different things that you need. You need improved strength to stay in contests or tackling. You need balance, reactivity, and quickness to change direction. You need jumping. Power is what makes jumping, and we could go on and on and on. There's each piece of the puzzle. There's so many. It's basically how do you work on all of them at once? Well, you can't. You have to break them up, and basically you need to find out where to start. So to know where to start, you need to define what abilities you need for your sport, and pretty much with every sport, coordination in integrated movement is the skill you need the most, because pretty much that's what you make everything from. But things like which I've got here: balance, strength being one part of it, speed, power, agility, coordination, and I've left a couple out being endurance and flexibility, which are probably the endurance is usually covered from game days and training. They're probably overdone in many sports. Flexibility is probably the easiest one to bring into play, and it should be done all the time anyway. But these other facets here, it's these ones that are, people are confused. What should I be doing? And unfortunately, most people spend all their time on strength, which is disappointing, because if you actually ranked most sports and be the one you'd need the least, and the other ones are way more important to you. So as I've just mentioned, most sports require more than just strength. So agility, speed, and power are all key skills you can train through the season. And the best thing about these is they prevent the injury. They definitely improve your performance, but they don't leave you with sore muscles. So you can still do your strength training, and we'll get to that in a minute. But I definitely, for a lot of the athletes I train with, this sort of stuff makes up a massive part of what I've done. And I can only do this if I've built a good foundation in the off season with my strength training. But during the season, I'll definitely work more on these sort of more plyometric and faster moving and complex skills that are sport specific, and trying to see if we can get more out of their body than what they normally can. So let's have a look at a couple of examples. Okay, here's a cool video. We have a hockey player who we've been teaching some change of direction, braking skills, agility training, and very much to use within the season. So this is the type of training that you can do all season round, and you'd really want to do this stuff when you're in the competition phase of your training. In the pre-season you would be trying to build up some strength and some muscle, and doing the things that might leave you quite sore. During the season you don't really want to do that. You don't really have a lot of time between trainings and playing days and stuff like that. This exercise is, there's many combinations we could do, but we were trying to replicate the change of direction she might need for a hockey match, and then adding in the variability of like reactions and making her unstable, and which would be the same as getting knocks and things like that. So I'll play the video here to give you an idea of what we do. So you lateral change of direction, we've got a slingshot added to her. She's got the complex movement skill of handling the stick and the ball, and because we're pulling her and tugging her and she's trying to move quick, there's mistakes made just like then. And then she's got to move that quick sudden change of direction, having the huge complex coordination of putting it all together and doing it all in one go. And you can see like how challenging that is for her to try and coordinate all that. So if you can break it down, there's like our lateral braking mechanism there, lateral shuffling, and then planting that foot to explode out to the off the one side, and this is where she makes mistakes. You know, a great exercise of the slingshot is like making it so much more difficult because she's having to react to it, but the complexity of looking after the ball is much more tiring for the brain, because you can see this beautiful change of direction here. Yeah, there you go. So this is a lot like, again, what you would want to be doing during this season. If you're a hockey player, very similar for basketball and football, netball, all those sports that need that short, sudden change of direction. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that, and we'll see you from going from left to right, and then as he's dropping down, and then as he's coming out of it, he's got to explode right up from the ankle, the knee, the hip, and you'll see it looks very similar to the movement of where I'm coming back here, and as I'm coming out, I'm exploding from ankle, knee, hip, right over to change to my left hand. And that's how I build the skills to, and you'll see if I play it more, then I'll change back to the other side. Now it's from left back to right, and that's where I can evade players. And you can see the drill on the left here, on the right here, of Dylan hopping over the cones, and we'd sometimes go 2 up, 1 back, 2 up, 1 back, so on and so on. So you can really build that explosive speed to really, you know, take it from one thing to there. So it's really this one here that we do a lot of it with, and you can see how high he gets over it. That gives him that extra spring and ability to explode away from packs in football, and in my case, get around someone and finish it off with a nice layup. All right, so a great exercise to use in the gym. You just need to really be able to learn how to single leg squat first. Also great for knee rehabilitation or injury prevention. If you can safely do this and do it really, really well at a high level like Dylan, you're going to prevent ankle, knee, hip problems.
Okay, so now we've touched on the agility and the quickness and reactivity stuff. So balance and flexibility. Now, as I mentioned, flexibility is one of the easiest things to do. So it really should be done after your training. So this video is more about the in the training stuff. Balance training, you know, like, and it's not just standing on a balance board like a picture here. Balance could be shoulder stability, could be you know, pelvic stability, all those different things. So we classify what many people call core strength in this area as well. So this is very important in the injury prevention side of things, but for some people it's an absolute must for their sport. So, you know, they really need to devote time to working on this. Now, again, the good news with this type of training is it doesn't leave you with sore muscles. So you're still enhancing your skills and your ability, but you will not be compromising your training the next day or your game day. All right, so you can keep training and moving forward without the risk of having fatigue. All right, so let's have a look again at a couple of quick examples.
Now we've got Kate, and we're going to try and take her from 2 legs to 1 leg, all right? And we're going to assess her balance with her eyes shut on the 1 leg. So we're going to do her good leg first, all right? So knowing that she's got an issue with one of her ankles, so we're just going to get her to shut her eyes. And ideally, you should be able to go for about 30 seconds or so, and she looks pretty good. Usually see people hopping around if they can't do it. All right, so we can sort of see that she could stay here all day on that one. So let's have a look at the more unstable one, the one that's had problems. And you'll see here, if there's ankle things going on, you'll watch her foot twitching all over the place, trying to work out where it should be. All right, so you can see as long as she stays there, it's sort of fighting with it, and eventually it gives in. All right, so this is where this exercise can be very good at identifying any sort of weaknesses in the lower end of the chain. All right, very, very simple to do. And if there's a problem with this, again, you need to do it. This is the posterior sling, and a huge amount of activation through the glutes, but so much stuff going on, he really can't think about one muscle. He just has to have the timing right. Again, this relates very much to running action. So let's watch Luke do a few. By adding the BOSU, we add extra nervous system demands, which forcing his body to find the correct movement pattern. You know, doing on the floor is equally as good if you don't have a BOSU, but we add this just to make his system work that little bit harder and encourage the correct stability. Basically, all you need is a medicine ball, and he's going to go into 1 leg squat, and he's going to jump out and throw the ball to me. and then jump back and throw it again. One more.
Okay, here's a interesting video I have today from our basketball or sport-specific training series. This is where I'm going to show you the relevance of a exercise that I love to do in the gym that significantly helps me for my game of basketball. Also very relates to a lot to football and sports where you're needing to jump a lot to reach up, and in the case of football, mark, but in the case of basketball, doing a layup. So the picture on the right with me on the BOSU is where I'm in a lunge with a dumbbell on my right hand and my left foot on the BOSU, and what I'm basically going to try and do is lunge down and then reach up on the opposite side, which is what we call a contralateral movement. And you'll see the reason that I have the dumbbell on that side is because it's exactly what I'm going to do when I shoot a basketball. Alright, so if I play the video in slow-mo here, you'll see on the right I'm about to go up, and I'll pause that right there, and you'll see when I come up in the exercise, as I come up, it's the same sort of timing as the layup move. So if I just go back a bit on the layup, and you'll see as I'm coming from here and I'm coming up into the movement, you see the timing of the extension of the hip, the shoulder, the ankle, the trunk, everything is relatively the same. So if I can build the skills of the movement in the gym, standing on something unstable with a load of, in this case I think it was a 15 kilo dumbbell, basketball doesn't even weigh a kilo, if my body has the ability to handle that sort of stress and exercise demands, the game of basketball is so much easier for my body. The chances of ankle sprains and things like that is significantly less.
Okay, now strength training. This is what probably most people were really wanting me to see what I'm going to say here, but basically you're just trying to manage during the season. You're trying to like minimize any loss that you might just to get from the amount of fatigue that you experience from the amount of training and game days, which, you know, for say games of football are 2 hours long, basketball close to 2 hours long for professionals, you know, even amateurs it's over an hour, you know, and for trainings, you know, and it's lots of endurance and just constant running, which, you know, will definitely bring about muscle loss. So your goal is to try and minimize that, but without making you too sore. Like a bodybuilder type training would be just stupid if you're an athlete. You would be risking tearing muscles all the time, which is just craziness. All right, so the off season is when the big gains need to be made, and during the season is when you work on integrated movements. You know, they're definitely strength, but just don't take them to failing point. All right, so examples. Let's have a look at a couple.
So now in the power stage, we're going to try and incorporate some integrated stuff that's has to be done fast. If it's not done fast, it's done poorly. All right, so Luke's going to demonstrate 3 versions of this squatting, pushing action. First one's the simple one, but he's still got to do it quite quick. So he's got to come up, straight up onto his toes. This is really mimicking like a jumping action and a pushing action really fast. So it's a very, very dynamic exercise. Now he's going to move into moving sideways, which we've spoken about before. Sideways is the action that's like risky for him. We're adding a load with one hand, huge amount of agility needed for this. The last one is where he's going to sort of twist around. There's a lot of twisting power. This is like an explosive one. And at times in the gym we do this where we actually throw the bar, very much like the shot put. Again, developing that explosive power, getting automatic muscles to fire like they're meant to in the sport. So it's becoming more and more like the game he plays. All right, so this is a very important stage. Make sure that you incorporate it and you do it safely, the other steps before it.
All right, so out of all of what we've seen, the one thing that's common to all of the things I've shown you, balance, agility, even this strength training, is coordination. Coordination and integrated movement. All of the movements that I've shown you were all done standing up, besides maybe stretching and a couple of isolated strength exercises as such, but they're all integrated movements done standing up. And
and this is the cornerstone that holds everything together, because remember, the brain controls everything. So if your exercise program is targeting improving your body's ability to move with complex tasks, then you're going to have, greater success with what you're looking to do, because this is pretty much where you're making everything from. So the more complex it is and the more specific it is, the greater the change. And as you've seen already in some of these earlier videos, how difficult they are to do, because there's so many things that can go wrong, just like when you play the game. All right, so if you can do those things, then in the off season you can definitely isolate things and really go to the workshop and not be worried about fatigue and the muscle soreness, because you don't need to play and train as much. So that's when you really need to work on that stuff. But during the season, complex skills and agility, reactivity, all the things that are very similar to the game is what you need the most. What about sets and reps? Well, sets and reps, usually I avoid slow tempos and high reps, and definitely don't take things to failure. The focus is really on trying to have a top quality movement, rather than just trying to hammer you. You'll get enough of that from the game. You want to be sort of like keeping your best for the game days, not using it all in the gym. All right, so slow tempos are used with postural correction and injury prevention exercises, but most of the time with the integrated stuff, it's a faster tempo, because it's more similar to the speed of the movement you're going to be needing. So guidelines for sets and that, it can vary a lot, but to give you an idea, speed and power, I might use more sets with less reps, with a bit of resting between, maybe 2 to 3 minutes rest, depending on what I'm doing. Same with the integrated strength. I won't sort of take the reps up above 10 very often. I'll try and keep them short and sharp and really, really good. Agility and reactivity, because sometimes these aren't reps, they might be length of time. So I'll try not to let the length of time go for too long. Usually sort of similar to the length of time in the contest. So for a tennis player, it might even be a lot shorter than that. So basically you try and use your information from your sport to define what you want to do, and if you can do that, you'll get some great results from your training. So I hope this video has helped to give you some extra information. If you want to know more, go to our website www.noregretspt.com.au, and you can find stacks of articles and videos and free reports, on and on and on. And hopefully this can give you a bit better guide as to how to structure your training. And if you live in Melbourne, give me a call. We definitely hook up and get you a program to get you started. All right. Hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video.